Hey, honey,
Yes, Barry?
let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin ti naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I am just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Hey, maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. Those are the Lapa Lapa, Puerto Vallarta's oldest restaurant, on the famous Los Muertos Beach, and the El Dorado Restaurant and Beach Club right next door. So you can enjoy that fantastic view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in beautiful colors, or during the day in its grand splendor for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. See it with your toes in the sand right at the water's edge. It's so romantic. It's so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. This week we are going to the new art museum in Puerto Vallarta. It's called Arte Vallarta Museo, and we're going to visit with Nathalie Herling. She's the lady in charge. I was surprised and I was pleased to find that Nathalie not only is in charge over there at the Arte Vallarta Museo, but she has a Greek restaurant called Eclecticos and a cool art studio called Art Vallarta. Both of those are in the Zona Romantica, so we're going to get a trifecta of places, all from one guest. We have listener Marty talking tequila in tequila. We have news and more, so let's see what's happening this week in Puerto Vallarta, the 6th day of June, 2022. May 31st, a couple days back, marked the 104th birthday of Puerto Vallarta, her anniversary of being a municipality, and 54 years as a city. Once named Las Peñas de Santa Maria, eventually it grew, and in 1885 it was officially established under the name of La Peña. On May 31st, 1918, the town received the title of municipality, and from that day took on the name of Puerto Vallarta in honor of Jalisco's then governor Ignacio L. Vallarta. And in 1968, 54 years ago, it officially became the city of Puerto Vallarta. There was a celebration of fireworks and music and dancing, and you know how it's done in Puerto Vallarta. Really nice to see people out there celebrating again. So happy birthday to Puerto Vallarta. 104 years. Don't look too bad on you. The rain has finally arrived. It's June, and usually by the 15th of June, we see the first downpour. But right now, we're just getting a little light rain in Vallarta. Hopefully, it's a precursor to a very good wet season. The votes are in, and the counting has stopped, and thanks to you and the fans of the Vallarta Botanical Gardens, they placed third in the USA Today 10 Best Contest for the Botanical Gardens. They were beat out by the Fairchild Tropical Botanic Garden in Coral Gables, Florida, and the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Garden in Cincinnati, Ohio. Those both must be some pretty incredible places. As a matter of fact, there's a panel of experts. They partner with the 10 best editors to pick the initial nominees, and then the top 10 winners are determined by popular vote. So, way to go, Bob Price and the gang over at Vallarta Botanical Garden. It's so beautiful. You got to get over there, really. Yesterday, June 5th, was World Environment Day, so make sure that if you didn't get out, get outside. Get out there and enjoy your environment. And if you don't like your environment, make some changes to your environment. And let's see here. Coming up at the Botanical Garden is Semana del Colibre in El Jardín Botánico de Vallarta, which translates to Hummingbird Week in the Vallarta Botanical Garden. It's going on June 14th until the 18th. You can enjoy a plethora of colibris. Colibri is hummingbird in Spanish, and the Vallarta Botanical Gardens attract a gazillion hummingbird. Is that a word? There must be, because they do. They attract gazillions of them. Those folks there know how to attract them. As a matter of fact, they can come over and they sit on your finger, and it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, get over to the gardens, take a hike, take a stroll, eat at their lovely restaurant, which overlooks the Rio Horcones. And remember that they are right now operating their summer hours. They're closed on Mondays, so don't take that ride all the way up there and find that they're closed. They're open Tuesday through Sunday from 9 o'clock in the morning until 6 in the evening. Whenever I go there, I make sure I bring insect repellent. I always wear long pants and shoes, not sandals, because, I like to avoid those no-see-ums and mosquitoes, and, that's why. Now, I've run into a couple of you who have told me stories about having your vaping pens confiscated from you when you arrive at the airport. Seems that there's a concerted effort to ban e-cigarettes, electronic cigarettes, in Mexico. This is just in from Axios. Mexican President Andres Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, on Tuesday signed a decree outlawing the sale of e-cigarettes, the Associated Press reported. Why does this matter? Well, the Mexican government has been pushing an anti-vaping policy, which includes a full ban of imports of e-cigarette devices, per the AP report. The announcement was made Tuesday morning during AMLO's daily press briefing and on World No Tobacco Day, an annual celebration to inform the public about the dangers of using tobacco per the WHO, or the World Health Organization. Yes, but despite Tuesday's decree, many Mexicans still import or buy vaping cartridges and fluid online or under the table, according to the AP report. The big picture is that Mexico's president in 2020 actually signed an executive order that banned the importation of e-cigarettes. The executive order pointed to data from the World Health Organization saying that e-cigarette emissions contain nicotine and other toxic substances that are harmful to both users and non-users who are exposed to the aerosols secondhand. So that kind of answers the question regarding having your e-cigarettes taken from you at the airport. I guess you're just going to have to buy your vape pen here when you arrive in Puerto Vallarta. I mean, they have vape shops all over the place in Vallarta. So let's see if they close those up, right? I doubt it, but we'll see. Anyway, I have a link to that Axios article in the show notes. You can find it at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. I got some sad news. Our buddy Bill Langsford from Beach Booty Beach Glass Jewelry passed away last week. All of a sudden, it was, I don't know, just a shock. My condolences to his wife, Susie, and his business partner. Bill has been on the show a couple times. Actually, we just recently had him on a meet and greet back, I think it was last November. Anyway, I actually had plans to have him and Susie on and interview both of them over the holidays, but when I was there, Susie wasn't feeling well, and the interview never happened. So anyway, we're going to miss you, Bill. And I'm so very sorry, Susie. Restaurant Week continues, and it will continue until the 10th. So 4 more days for participating restaurants to entice you to come on in. You got to go over there, have a meal at a reduced price. Check out the list of participating restaurants, and I have them in the show notes, and you know where to find them. Just get out there and eat. Have you noticed airfare is going up? Well, I did. I guess it's still Tijuana to Puerto Vallarta, at least for now. But speaking of cheap airfare, our friend Johnny D, the hot pickle guy, the spicy pickle guy from Canada that we had on the show some time back. And Johnny is someone who has actually introduced me to a couple of great interviews that we've had over the years. Johnny flew into Los Angeles. He stayed with me and my wife and my son for 6 days. before flying out of Burbank Airport and over to Las Vegas, where he caught his connecting flight up to Edmonton. By doing that, he paid about $400 US, and he saved himself about $800. Anyway, we'll see if he comes back through Los Angeles on his way back. But it was good having, someone from Puerto Vallarta come and visit me. Anyway, see if I'm right. Check your airfare and tell me if you see the same price hikes that I'm seeing, from your town to Paradise. And if you do, send me an email. I'd be interested about that. All right, let's get to our interviews, shall we? Over the last few weeks, I've been teasing an interview I had with listener and frequent contributor Marty from Indiana. Marty is with the Lions Club, and we've spoken over the years about their efforts to bring the Lions Eyeglass Clinic to Puerto Vallarta and to other parts of Mexico as well. And last trip down, I actually didn't plan a meet and greet because we were celebrating JR's birthday, which we did. And then before I left, I actually hinted that I might be announcing a meetup, which I never did. But then JR, he's got his weekly Tuesday evening meet and greets over at Nacho Daddy. So I went there with my microphones. And of course, because I heard earlier in the afternoon from Marty that he and his wife Janine were planning on going to the meet and greet, if I was planning on coming. And I told him I was, and so he was. And he also had a couple of first-time Vallarta virgins with him. He had Bob and Lisa from Indiana as well. So we had a pretty good turnout over at the meet and greet, but I wanted to hear Marty's story about his side trip that he took to Guadalajara and Tequila Town on his way to Puerto Vallarta. So let's hear how they did it, shall we? Let's go to Basilio Badillo, 287, in the Emiliano Zapata neighborhood of Puerto Vallarta at JR's meet and greet, and let's talk with Marty Jewell in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Marty, thanks for coming on again.
Hey, it's great to be here.
Tell us, you've been to Tequila, you've been to Guadalajara. Tell us about. You went there before you came here. So
yes,
what was the plan?
Well, we wanted to spend a little extra time. I wanted to go to Guadalajara. I had never been there before. We obviously changed planes there a couple of times. My high school Spanish teacher told me that Guadalajara was the home of the most beautiful and tall women in all of Mexico. So I had to see it firsthand. I don't know if they're the tallest, but they are nice looking. So anyway, it's a big city, and I've heard a lot about it. And I said, hey, why not try it? So we went down there for 4 days, and we came down here.
Okay, so walk us through it. What was it like? You fly out of...
We fly out of Chicago. We had to change planes in Houston.
Yeah.
Or was it Dallas? I don't remember. One of those.
It's somewhere in
Texas towns.
Yeah.
And then we fly into Guadalajara. It was it's a quick flight. It's like 2 hours to Dallas, or 2 hours to Texas from Chicago, and you grab your stuff. We don't check luggage, so we just grab our stuff and run right over to the other airport and our other airline. Came right down to Guadalajara. For the size of the city, Guadalajara is the second largest city in Mexico. I think it's over 7-8 million people. It's very large.
Yeah.
You wouldn't tell by looking at it, but it's very large. The airport is not as busy as you would expect it to be for that size of population.
Yeah.
But since the last time that we were in Guadalajara, they must have tripled the size of the airport. Very big.
Wow.
Got out right away. We had made arrangements with the hotel we stayed at. They have somewhat of an arrangement with some cabs, and they came and they were there to pick us up. Took us right down to it. Takes us half an hour in good times.
Yeah.
Even though it's not that far to the hotel.
Into town.
We stayed right down in the central district, close to the main campus of the University de Guadalajara.
Okay.
There's a lot of universities there. It's a lot of medical and a lot of things. So it's a very good town, very historic. Lots of things to see and do there.
Yeah. So what did you do while you were there?
My initial reason I want to go there is that it is so very close to tequila. As you know, I have somewhat of an affinity for tequila.
Yes, I do. In fact, I've shared some with you over the years.
So we did a little research, or I should say I did a little research on what kind of a tequila tour I wanted to do. I knew they had a train that went from Guadalajara to Tequila, and then you take a bus back. It's a train one way, and it's a bus back.
Okay.
A friend of ours told us that that's the Jose Cuervo. I'm not a Jose Cuervo fan. It's the world's largest distillery.
Yeah.
They do 40,000 liters a day.
Wow.
And so I didn't want to do a Walt Disney tour of a tequila distillery.
Right.
So on my research, I found a tour. The guy has like 2 people, and he takes a minivan, and that's it, maximum of 6 people.
Okay.
And our tour, there were 2 people, just Janine and myself. And so he picked us up at the hotel, took as much time as we wanted. We stopped at a, I can't remember where we stopped for. We stopped at Cava de Oro, which is a artisanal tequila distributor. Very good tequila. And he showed us everything individually. He went around. He's one of the few tour operators that they allow to go in without using the company people.
Yeah.
So he went in and showed us everything behind the scenes. We got to see everything. We tasted the agave, and it's good. And then we tasted several tequilas, and then we went into tequila in the city, and they took us as part of the package. We got to go to a dinner, a lunch, and it was at the Casa de Sausa. Sausa is the 3rd largest distillery, and we sat right next to a table of Sausa executives wining and dining some visitors.
Nice.
And the food was absolutely gorgeous. It was all custom. I mean, you could tell it was nothing off the rack.
Wow.
But it was delicious.
Wow.
Then from there, he offered to take us to another place to get us kind of a drink that's a custom of that area. It's I'm not sure what it was. It was non-alcoholic, but we really didn't want it. We weren't interested in that. We came back, and once we hit the outskirts of Guadalajara, it was a 2-hour ride, stop and go.
Oh,
the
yeah,
entire
you
time.
hit the traffic, didn't you?
If I ever had any thoughts about going back to Guadalajara, that would tip the scales. I think I saw enough of we did go to a couple other places. We went to Tlaquepaque, which is an upscale area.
Yeah.
We went to Tonalá, which is like a big, huge flea market.
Yeah.
Very nice. And we did a little walking around. We saw the typical cathedrals and some really nice sights and a few cantinas. We had a relaxing time.
How did you find the prices compared to Puerto Vallarta, for example?
Well, again, it's not a large tourist trap. The housing, our hotel was as fine as a hotel like any Holiday Inn Express. It was $28 a night.
Wow.
And it's very clean, very nice.
Yeah.
We went to a lot of taverns, cantinas.
Uh-huh.
We found everything was about half price of Vallarta.
Wow.
And I think that's because it wasn't a highly tourist area.
Right.
The taxis were more expensive.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't take too many taxis. But there were sometimes we took taxis to get out to some of these other places.
Right. How many days did you spend?
We were 4 days there. We got there on a Tuesday and we left on a Saturday morning.
Do you think that's enough time? Do you need more time than that?
For me, no, I don't need any more time. If I were younger and I was more into my historical genes, yeah, I'd like to spend more time because I enjoy going around and seeing a lot of old buildings and doing that kind of thing. Half of the group that I was with didn't care for too much of that, so. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. While you were in tequila, I mean, there's like this thing that you drink is called alcohol, and then you were in a like a camioneta all the way there for 3 hours. What happened there? Did you find a couple bathrooms to stop in? What was happening there?
No, we didn't have any problems.
Oh, okay, good.
No.
God, because you're making me just so upset.
This is quality tequila.
Oh,
this
okay,
is not.
all right.
This is not.
You didn't have to like.
No.
Okay, never mind.
No. And
You're
remember,
Pampers, right?
When
No.
and you know me well enough, Barry. I drink tequila correctly.
Yeah,
You don't slam tequila.
No, you're a sipper. You do it the right way.
Yep.
You're my kind of guy. All right. All right. So the flight. Tell us about the flight from Guadalajara to Puerto Vallarta. How was that?
Well, they only had about enough time to push that beverage cart for all 13 people on board. from one end of the plane to the other, and then it started coming down again. It was 25 minutes.
Wow. That's so quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you were probably in the airport for 4 times longer.
We got to Vallarta, and of course you land at the terminals on the other side where Delta and American and all those are, and you kind of just go out the back door.
Yeah.
And you probably, at that time in the morning, it was like 10:30. The sharks really weren't in full force yet.
Right.
It was too early for the commercial flights. So we walked right by them, got outside, went across the bridge, got a cab, and we were downtown here in less than 20 minutes.
Exactly. That's the coolest part of flying, local, right?
Yeah.
Flying domestic, as they say. And were you surprised that they had like a Shark Tank over in the domestic area too? I was totally surprised.
I didn't see much of one because by the time we got
You were
back,
there early, huh?
By the time we got back into the airport, then we're back in where all the people come.
Yeah.
But from the gates and everything to that point, we didn't see any sharks.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, they got them set up later in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I could tell you that. Yeah, it's pretty. To me, it was hilarious. I went, oh, okay, they're going after the Nationals too. This is cool. All right. So, how long you staying?
We'll be here for 3 weeks.
3? Did you say 30 weeks? No, you said 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Oh my God! Are you staying at Plaza Mar?
See? Yep.
All right. You got anything planned? What are you going to do?
A lot of nothing.
Okay, excellent.
Well,
That's how we do that.
Like I say, our biggest decision every day is where we're going to go eat.
Okay, and we already know we know 3 of your favorite places.
Oh, 3 of my favorite places?
Yeah.
Let me have my wife tell you them.
Janine, come on, help out.
I definitely go to Bravos, Poblanos, and Siam.
I knew it. Those are the 3.
Michael Buford is one of our best friends, and I highly recommend his restaurants to everybody.
I love Michael. Michael's got a big heart, and he's got lovely restaurants and terrific food.
The breakfast are Mi Cafe and Coco's Kitchen and Casa Nicole. And those are good breakfast locations.
Those are your picks.
That's where I
breakfast.
go for French toast.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? You're with her, right?
Oh yeah, those are our favorites. We have a lot of places we go to. It depends what we want to eat. And I like seafood. I like langostinos, the red snapper. I love that. She's not too much of a seafood person, so I'll go anywhere and eat. Like today, I would not make a special point to come here and eat, but we had the Nacho Daddy hot dog, and it was great. I mean, it's like the best Chicago dog you can get south of the border.
Right here
Yep.
in Mexico. Incredible. Anything to add? Something that maybe we've missed about the Guadalajara trip and the tequila trip?
I just was amazed at how metropolitan it was where we were staying. It was, obviously there's no beach, but we didn't feel threatened anywhere outside, although everyone cautioned us, don't go out alone at night. And I think if you're in Chicago, you have that same warning.
Of course.
More so. But no, we had a good time. I went to the last thing I want to do when I go to Mexico is to see old churches, but they all look alike. However, in Guadalajara, we went to the cathedral and I looked at it and some government buildings and a couple of other old churches, and they're very nice. I just want to make sure I saw them because the architecture was so unique. There's so much different than some of them down here because they're so much older.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they have walls that are 4 feet thick.
Yeah, incredibly so. Wow. All right. Well, so now you said that was it, right? You're not going to go back to Guadalajara. You done?
No,
Tequila.
My satisfaction reached its point. If I had to go back for some reason, I wouldn't. I'd go.
You wouldn't hesitate. You'd do it if you had to.
Yeah.
But you've seen it. You've been there. You've been to tequila. Once you've been there, you don't need to go back, right?
I don't think so. Although some people say you got to go down there and to tequila again. But after you've seen one distillery, they kind of all look alike, except for the label.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And of course they all do their distilling a little bit different. Some use copper pots, some use stainless steel. So what?
Right.
The process is the same.
Yeah. Wow. Oh well. thank you so much coming to the meet and greet. JR's meet and greet here over at Nacho Daddy. And, I didn't even make the announcement and you were here, so this was even better than I expected. So,
Thanks for having us.
thank you. All right. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Janine. Great information for those of us who, just might be contemplating approaching Puerto Vallarta from a different angle. And, may even be more cost effective, seeing that all these airfares are spiking all over the place. Maybe a side trip to Guadalajara or even to Mexico City might be more cost effective and certainly more adventuresome. So think about that. And by the way, I have pics that Marty sent me as well as information for the tour guide to Tequila. They're over in the show notes if you're interested. You can find them where at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. Next, I have a real treat for you, a visit to the museum, the new Museo in Romance. And we're going to talk with a very interesting woman. Now, being Facebook friends with both Javier Nino and Ada Colorina. In fact, I've had Ada and Javier on the podcast over the years. I saw them both post about their art being exhibited at a new museo, a new museum up in the neighborhood of El Romance. I reached out to my friend Marcia Blondin, who I had on the last episode, as a matter of fact, and I asked her who she knew at the museum, and she said she knew Nathalie Herling, the lady in charge over there. So I asked her if she'd make the introduction, and she said yes, and she did. And so I dropped in on Nathalie. And even though Nathalie had a deadline to meet, she had something to write, she graciously agreed to sit down with me and talk about her new project and other projects that I had no idea that she had in her bag of tricks. So I was really impressed with Nathalie, I got to tell you, and you will be too. So now to get to Arte Vallarta Museo from the Romantic Zone, you just walk straight up Lázaro Cárdenas to just before the bridge that leads up into El Coloso, where JR lives. And just before you get to that bridge that goes over the Rio, you turn right on a street called Riviera del Rio, and you follow that a ways into the colonia of Romance, and you will find the museo. I have a map that will get you there, but that's the location. If you're wondering, that is where we are going. So now that you have that picture in mind, let's go right now to a lovely courtyard in the newest museum in Puerto Vallarta, in Colonia El Romance, and let's meet the talented, the very busy Nathalie Herling, the owner of a restaurant, that's right, a Greek restaurant in the Romantic Zone called Eclecticos, an art gallery, which is a workshop and a supply house called Art Vallarta, also in the Romantic Zone, and now Arte Vallarta Museo in Colonia El Romance, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. All right. Nathalie, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you for coming here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what was your path to Puerto Vallarta?
I moved here from New York City. Came down to take care of my aunt who had been here 40 years for living the life of being in Puerto Vallarta, a French woman. And I just ended up staying, fell in love with it immediately, and hard to leave New York City, but did it.
And even harder to leave Puerto Vallarta.
It turns out.
Yeah, it seems. Wow. All right, so what year was that?
That's 13 years ago.
13 years ago, and...
I'm not good at years.
No.
Sorry.
What did you do when you got here, other than take care of your aunt?
I was a little confused. I didn't know what to do because I had been working with MasterChef and doing a lot of cool things in the art fields in New York City. And then couldn't really find the gallery that would hire me or accept me in. And then met my husband then, my love of my life back then, and decided I definitely was staying. It was kind of the last decision maker. And I helped him run his businesses here and decided I was really starving, having lack of art in my life. Mm-hmm. Big problem. Wasn't doing my cooking the way I was doing it in New York and all that. But so I asked for the garage of the building, put a clay studio in there, a ceramic studio, And then I started asking all my artist friends, hey, would you teach a class, or would you do this, or hey, let's do an exhibition. Or I was trying to create an alternative art scene. Back then, it was a lot easier. It was so alternative. Anything you did was a little bit alternative. And so we ended up doing some really wonderful exhibitions. And artists got to use studios there. And we bought equipment, and we started buying lots of kilns. And it just went from 600 square feet to now it's like 8,000 square feet.
Wow. What's it called?
It's Art Vallarta.
It's Art Vallarta?
Vallarta. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's over in the Romantic Zone. We have a theater. We have all kinds. It's really wonderful just
How
to
come
walk
I
in.
haven't been there?
I don't know, but you have something to look forward
I
to.
guess so. All right.
It's really cool.
Tell us about it. So you got these kilns. It's all ceramic?
No, painting studios, paper mache studios. We have a beautiful glass kiln for making very large glass pieces if you want to try that. We don't do glass blowing. It's too hot here anyway.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of fusing. We have an art supply store so you can get all the supplies. That was kind of the idea is what do artists lack to be able to make what you want to do? And back then you weren't allowed to paint murals outside. And so
that went down the tubes, didn't it?
well, we painted all the walls inside, and we call it because the artists were coming in from Mexico City and Guadalajara, and they want the space just asked for that kind of attention. So I couldn't get a business license because we had a stained glass sign on the front of the building. And then we put a mural up on the outside of the building. I thought we'll never get a license. But then we did. The city has gone through such a rapid transformation. And some of the earliest muralists all worked at Art Vallarta in the beginning. And it was fascinating. It was so much fun. We went to Montreal. We did shows. New York City. It's been a wonderful artistic ride.
Wow, no kidding. All right. And so we're here at a museum where there's art. Talk to us about that.
Well, I've always felt that was a real loss when the university closed the art museum that they had. It was our only art museum. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to evaluate what would it take to open a museum. Ended up sitting down with a wonderful man, Elroy Quenwaro, who actually designed the interiors of museums. And he kind of started saying, well, we love supporting projects like Art Vallarta. And he says, well, I really would like to see a museum. And I said, I always am dreaming of it. I just got a not-for-profit status, so we could do a museum. But I didn't think it was going to happen for many years. I just kind of thought, okay, we'll kind of build a little museum in Art Vallarta. And within 4.5 months, we had looked at quite a few properties, trying to figure out what would make a museum, what could work, what collections we could work with. And next thing we know, we're in this beautiful neighborhood we are now in El Romance, which is a hidden gem. It's an old school neighborhood where there's a lot of metal workers, there's fishermen, the school's right next door. So this gorgeous compound, what came available at a very good price. Everything else we were looking at was like $5 million. Not going to happen. The hell you open a museum and pay that kind of money? Give me a break. Yeah. So this was very fair priced, and this, we were able to come in here. We're going to have to still buy the property, but we've kind of locked in a price for 5 years from now.
Ah, very good.
So that we can build something that can last for decades and decades. And it's a privately held museum that's publicly oriented, bilingual. And we really believe in the children programs and everything that we're doing here. It's very important to me that everyone in this neighborhood and everybody comes into the museum and walks in at least and looks in the collection, because museums in other cities I've gone to, they can be right dab in the middle of town and nobody walks in. And the idea, when you come into this museum and you go into the main exhibit hall, it's at this moment in time, for the next probably couple of years, that exhibition will be up. It's all about the earliest art ever made in PV. So you see these paintings that are scenes of the early landscape, and they just painted them because they loved the look of it. They didn't, it wasn't like it was fun. It was what they were doing for love and heart. And then there'd be people who loved art that started trying to teach art and encourage people to be artists. This is a really rich artistic area going all the way back to pre-Columbian times. So, to say this is the earliest art, it isn't the earliest art, but it's the earliest art that was painted on canvases and documenting the city as it was growing. And then you have the wonderful Manuel Lepe, who had such joy in his paintings. And then you had the movie come in, and they needed artists, and all these local artists that had a very, I don't want to say innocent or naive, because I know those words are always so limited, but they were able to look at things in such a beauty, one perspective, most of the art back in the beginning. Later, the artists got much more experience. They were very well collected. I mean, Manuel Lepe was in many Hollywood houses. The Queen of England has pieces, so they're everywhere. Yeah. But I also felt, because there wasn't a museum to focus on the artists like Javier Niño and Ada Colorina and the people who came out of that beautiful time, who went and studied in academic environments that most of these other people didn't have access to. They had access to different kinds of materials. But you see how much they just love that Vallartensia style of art. And they just continue this beautiful tradition. But there's also so many other kinds of art that does happen now in PV for decades and decades and decades. So much international influence, so much local influence, that that's the other area we'll be focusing on for a while, is all those influences, how they work with families that have continued traditions, people who've moved here, left, gone on. I mean, even Edward Weston, the photographer, was here in 1923. I haven't found a photograph he's taken yet of here, but I'm looking. But it's so much information to disseminate, to register, to preserve, all this historical information we've been gathering. It just proves even more and more why we needed a serious art museum in town, and also tourists. The fact the city had to have an art museum. Every major solid community has a museum, and I think we've filled this gap quite nicely. I mean, it's an important part of this, and why we started with the earliest history. We are an art museum, a contemporary art museum, and an ethnographic art museum. As soon as we build more rooms, we'll have a really wider range of collections. But I think right now we're giving a real base. If you walked in here and you were buying a condo, or you were going to school at the elementary school, you would have a chance to really learn a lot about PV very quickly and in a beautiful, different kind of language of art.
Yeah, isn't that? Yeah, that's great too. Bring the neighborhood kids in too. Yeah. This area here is beautiful. It's a wide open space. We're sitting in a plaza, and then up above there are several what looks like areas that you could gather. You planning on having parties here, weddings? You planning on having something like that going on?
Well, every first Saturday of every month we have a party. Okay, we always try to focus on a different kind of live music. And the museum's free, because we do have a little admission fee, because we do have expenses. But so we make it for free. We have food. We bring in people who can at least nibble on stuff, and a bar, that kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
And the PV way.
Right.
And we make it where people can just wander through and meet people that they never would have had an opportunity. We have about 200 people come so far. It's only been our second one.
Right.
And the next one is coming next week. So it's the fact that everybody can depend on that every month. It's kind of a nice way for artists to meet other artists and collectors, or just the neighborhood. I really work hard trying to bring the neighborhood in, because that's very dear to me. So we could do weddings, we could do all that. Since we opened up in such a rapid time, we've only been open 2.5 months. So it was quite a experience. We're really looking forward to people enjoying this like it is their little plaza. And with all the terraces, eventually we'll have artistic coverings, we hope, and it would be it's a pretty magical place. The birds.
It's beautiful here.
If you notice, there's some dogs and cats here. They all moved in from the neighborhood. The one I have in my lap right now actually gave birth in the museum while we were doing construction.
Voila!
And she's now the permanent doorbell, because she barks sometimes. But we welcome, it's the idea that this should be a safe place for people just to come, bring a picnic if they want to. We'll open a restaurant, but for now we encourage people. We don't have a bar license, so bring in your glass of wine or whatever you need. But you can just hang out if you want to, because that's part of art. You have to live it as your lifestyle,
So that's like the second Saturday of every month? Or is that the first Saturday of every month?
The first Saturday of every single month. You can come here at night. It's from 6 to 8.
Okay.
And you can depend on having a little fun.
Right.
And neat people are coming. It's so exciting. It's fun.
Yeah. You've got a pool, I see.
Well, this was a residence. Okay, this was a residence. It was a grocery store. It was a machine shop. So the man who owned it had put a pool in here at some point. So we turned it into an art piece. Tony Calantes, a muralist, a famous muralist in town, he knows that I was trying to figure out how to bring an ancient art into the museum because it's not legal for us to have it here.
Yeah.
So we decided to look at the round pyramids outside of Guadalajara, Guachimontones.
Oh, yeah.
And this is like a modern art Guachimontones.
It
It's
sure
the
is.
circle. It's psychedelic.
It
It's
totally
kind of-
is. I got a picture of it in the show notes. You can find them at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. Check it out. All right.
And then we have murals on the outside. We might do more. If you go to Art Vallarta, it's got this gigantic mural on the outside, and it's got gigantic murals on the inside. So I feel like, okay, can't put murals everywhere, but we try.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Come on.
Walk
Why
in the
not?
bathroom. Have you been into the bathroom over
I'll
there?
go use the baño. I'll check it out.
It's one artist took every wall and every inch, and it's painted.
All right. I can only imagine. Okay, so I'll check that out too.
Yeah.
Let's leave the museum and let's leave Art Vallarta just for a minute. Let's go out into town because
Love the town.
everybody likes to eat, and we like to talk about people's favorite restaurants and stuff like that.
Well, I have a restaurant, so I have to. I
Very-
have to divulge. I
stop.
can be. I can be very prejudiced, but
well,
but
tell
I'm
me
a
about
big
wait,
foodie.
Wait, hold it. Tell me about your restaurant.
It's called Eclecticos. It's a Greek
Eclecticos,
restaurant.
uh-huh.
We will have a restaurant here at the museum early next season, but that was my first restaurant baby. The chef has been a Greek chef in Mexico for 30 years. He's the longest Greek chef in Mexico.
Yeah.
And he had closed the doors and went into catering, and then we went to Greece and ended up running into the restaurant where he had learned all his recipes, but he learned them in Canada because they had a Canadian restaurant. And we found out that the recipes he were using, I'm a culinary anthropologist by training, so it turns out that the recipes were so authentic. And it was even hard to find food still like that in Greece when we were traveling around, but luckily they were from Crete, and Crete has a very good food center. So we have something very special in Puerto Vallarta that they don't have in Greece, is they don't have the abundance of beautiful fresh vegetables the same way. Crete had more, but other parts just are, they're just desolate of these things. There's so much been overfishing in the Dead Sea to deal with, that we have all these incredible fish and seafood, and it just seemed like the perfect place to take those recipes and make it in that style and offer an alternative to people. And he always was a popular chef, so it was and it's very fun, and it's full of art. The place is.
I can only imagine. I know why. Wow. Tell us about the dishes that you serve there.
Well, we have all the classics like moussaka, but we do some really incredible lamb and pork. There's a little Mexican flair in some of the dishes because that's what we have, and you can imagine it's not always that easy to get exact Greek materials to work with.
Yeah.
But it's, lots of appetizers. You can be a vegetarian. I tend to be more vegetarian. So it's we have lots of different, like domadas you can have, and hummuses and tabulis and all the classics, the soups, the salads. It's I really like the food.
I'm liking it too.
And it's well priced, what you get. We also do a lot of Mexican wines. We love Mexican wines. Mexican wines are kind of a passion, unfortunately, sometimes. But yeah, I love them too much.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, they're so good. They're just so wonderful.
The ingredients, like you were talking about, what is the most difficult thing to get a hold of here for a Greek restaurant?
Well, COVID, phyllo dough was
The
like
phyllo
worth
dough,
$40 a package
Oh,
or
my
something. It was ridiculous. And grape leaves. Oh my goodness. Thank goodness for Mercado Libre. But but then people weren't even selling it there. It was like, so we started, I don't want to say smuggling, but muling them in from the U.S. when we could get them. And it's very hard, to get Greek wines because by the time they go across the world and go across Mexico and all of its different temperature zones, by the time we get it over here, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
It's nothing worse than drinking a bad bottle of wine. So we don't tend to have much of that. And someday maybe. because they're wonderful. But this town is so full of every kind of restaurant, and the idea that we can have so many international options is, I think, a fun addition.
I think it's a great addition, of course. That's why, I mean, if you were just here and eating Mexican food, you'd get really tired of it pretty quickly. That's just the way it goes.
Mexican food has influenced all the foods of the world so wonderfully that, we have to do a few little varieties.
Absolutely. All right, well, what do you serve? Breakfast, lunch, dinner there? What do
No,
you
just
serve?
dinner.
Just dinner?
Dinner.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
we have to have a life.
Let's talk about breakfast and lunch places then, okay?
Coco's Kitchen next door.
Okay.
That's next door to Eclecticos.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
there you go.
And
what do you get when you go to Coco's?
well, I love their squash soup, calabaza soup, and for the Vallarta omelet. I mean, the way they make eggs, a lot of times that's one of the challenges in Mexico is that they fry oil around the eggs, and it's harder, and it's interesting. But that's why they have such great sauces, so they can cover up whatever they put on there. And you're going to love it anyway. Oh, I have a favorite breakfast place also. Well, Coco's Kitchen, number one.
Okay.
Then I've discovered this little restaurant called Milpa. It's up above Pitial. And I was going to open up a restaurant like that here at the museum with all the indigenous ingredients. And she has done a beautiful job. It's just breakfast and lunch. But she's using like blue corn and yellow corn. And she uses different local fruits that you normally don't find into sauces and moles. I find it one of the more original, interesting food places in town. And it's kind of off the beaten path.
It's up in Quapanole?
What?
It's in Quapanole, or is it?
I don't remember the exact neighborhood.
But it's above Pitial.
Above Pitial. It's right over there. And it's fun to explore over there because everybody, I like neighborhoods that are a little bit less expensive for living because people take more chances. That's how, Versailles was.
Yeah.
Versailles is. Now it's more expensive. But and like the romantic zone, it's all these things.
The creep. It's the creep.
Yeah, but the city is a big city now. We have lots of different areas, and I love that there's surprises everywhere.
True enough.
Yeah.
All right. So so that second one is like out of town. You got to find. I'll have it.
You have to have a car.
Okay. Do they have a Facebook page? You think?
I guess so.
I
found them online. That's why I didn't use the name for this restaurant.
All right. Well, cool. Well, I'll find it. I'll have a link to it in the show notes. You can find it there.
Yes, I recommend it.
All right.
So Coco's and Milpa. Lunchtime, there's no restaurants over here, so we're always hungry for restaurants. I mean, other than Que Pasa, and Que Pasa's putting up a new roof.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they have pierogies on Wednesday, so
he does good pierogies.
I have to go there for pierogies.
Yeah.
So that's our closest restaurant, really.
Yeah, it is. So that's it. So that's kind of your lunch stop.
And the Red Cabbage. We're right near the Red Cabbage,
They
the
do lunch
museum.
there?
No,
they're just
they don't.
dinner,
They do
huh?
everything not
Breakfast,
to
lunch,
let
dinner?
you eat there.
Oh, really? It's just like whenever we're here. Is
Yes,
that how they
kind
are?
of. But I love them. I mean, I do love it. I just wish they'd be a little bit more friendly when I walk by and say, "Can I bring in this little dog?" No. That wasn't a good plug. Sorry, guys.
That's right. Yeah, that's all right. Don't worry about it. I haven't been there yet, so we'll see.
Go. They have a peanut soup. I love the peanut soup.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All
That's
right.
a good thing.
You're vegetarian,
Not
kind of,
really,
sort of.
Kind of, sort of. I'm a culinary anthropologist. It's hard
you
not to eat
lean
everything.
a little bit that way. So,
Yes.
what do you? If you were going to go for a vegetarian meal in town,
I like Veggie Italia.
yeah.
It's got a lot of character, and I'm not a big pizza eater, but it makes a very nice pizza. I think it has character, and I just love any restaurant that really cares about its ingredients. That's one of the saddest things about being in a tourist area where it's all about tips and business and getting out fast. It's kind of like it has sometimes a lot of restaurants don't have that kind of energy, but if you care about your ingredients, I have to say another favorite restaurant because she's my best friend and I love her. Colette owns Langostinos on the beach, and so it's a fun place to hang out, and I can't imagine anybody nicer to hang out at the beach than Colette. And so.
Yeah, well, Colette's got that spay and neuter thing going on. She's a busy lady. It's hard to track her down. One of these
and I'm
days,
her best
I'm
friend, and I rarely see her.
One of these days, I'm getting her on this show. God, Natalie, it's so hard.
I'll get her. I'll get her for you.
Well, yeah,
I'll get her.
I've heard that before. Okay.
Okay.
I've heard that before. We'll see.
She loves to go to Guadalajara.
Does she?
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Well,
what you'll
I have to do that. I have to do that to see her. Oh man, that's tough work. Okay.
We're the top
sometimes.
shoppers of Guadalajara.
Okay, they know you when you come. There they come. If you had like a day off and you we're just gonna. It's a day trip, so come here, there and back. Where would you go? What would you do?
I can still do my toe in a day, and I like going because I just it's such an escape from everything we have here, and you get to go a little bit in the mountains. It gets a little bit cooler. You know, you can stop in El Tuito for lunch if you need to at a few places that are. There's a couple places opening up over there.
Some really cool places up
yeah,
there. Yeah,
and it's a fascinating place. We are looking at doing an exhibit about El Tuito right now in the arts because I have found some of the most fascinating artists that are in their 70s and 80s. We're actually doing a show of one of the tapestry artists coming up at the museum in next fall.
Uh-huh.
You won't believe the quality, and it was such a hidden gem. I mean, the first airstrip was in El Tuito back in the 30s and things. You know, things like that you find out. So I like getting out of town. I like getting in the car and just going around and exploring.
Yeah, and you can do that all in a...
Yeah.
Let the mobile gas, the global gas go by.
Oh, yes. We love the global gas.
It's a podcast, right?
Yeah.
We have to have global
and
gas,
we're outdoors.
Right? Global gas.
Because we are in the place where you can be.
So, how about a 3-day? What would you do on a 3-day?
Go to Guadalajara with Colette. She would say the same. No, it's just that because we are busy business ladies and we have lots to do. We have to
get... Yeah, of course you do. Yeah,
I went up there and bought a stove for the new museum. So.
Yeah, I get it. All right, so when you go to Guadalajara, you go to what, Tonalá and Tlaquepaque, you do that and all that stuff, and you pick up what you need.
Yeah.
Because you got a restaurant, right? You need some stuff. You're always looking for flatware and stuff like that,
and beautiful arts and crafts. There's some really fabulous artists up there. You know, they're beautiful things they do. My specialty is cooking in clay pots. So I work a lot with the artists up there that make clay cookware. And so that was what I used to make in art. So it's... we're in a beautiful state. You know, Jalisco and Nayarit just have so many alternatives. That's why it's so nice to be here, and you can be here 13 years and know you're going to be here another 13 years.
Exactly.
If you live that long.
Yeah, if you can live that long. That's right. If you don't drink too much. Hey, everybody, stop that. Drop that. All right, never mind. So let's see. If you had a word of advice for a first-timer to Puerto Vallarta, what would it be?
Well, I think don't look at the restaurants probably in the top 10 on TripAdvisor because I think they're wonderful. There's some very good ones in there, but it's more where every other tourist is going to go. And, the taco stands have been always very popular and taco tours and all those kind of things. But I think just do your research. Look at wonderful podcasts like yours or things. And that's what I do anywhere I go in the world and travel. I dig around for at least 3 or 4 days before I go anywhere. And I would do that research, find something that really gets your attention and just go for it, And I think whether it be a taco stand or whether it be a Greek restaurant or whether it be an Italian or it's hard to be on the beach. There are some good places there, but there's also a lot of more touristy places, so you won't really get the true Mexican food.
Yeah.
I think go to the market. If you're lucky enough to have a kitchen, don't be afraid. Try all our produce and fruits and things like that because it's going to make your life a lot healthier. In the end.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I would do. Well,
speaking of the first timers, okay, if you have someone that's never been here to Puerto Vallarta, and let's say you're going to just go meet them over at the cruise dock, and you didn't have time because you're a busy lady, you got to get back to the restaurant, but you're going to drop them off one place that's going to be. This is Puerto Vallarta. Where
Not
would you
the
take
museum. Okay, we're going to take that off the table because you would actually be in an old classic neighborhood and see a lot of history of art of PV, and you would feel Mexico. You would feel it. I think you have to go to the beach. It would be. You see the mountains to see the jungle and see the ocean. That is the beautiful thing that made everybody come here in the first place. So I think you'd have to go see that, and put your toes in the water and just go have a margarita on the beach. You have to. Have to.
Right.
Sorry, it's a cliche, but it's essential.
So true. If you don't have that, if you don't have your Instagram account, then obviously you don't know that you're supposed to put your feet in the sand and take a picture of yourself drinking a margarita.
Yeah,
But
people
that's
won't believe
what you
you've been
need
here.
to be doing. That's what you need to be doing.
Yeah, you have to do that at least a little bit. A lot of us hang out at Swell. That's where you
like
go do that.
Swell? You like
Swell and
Swell Beach Bar?
Langostinos. Those would be the two.
Yeah.
I just even when we all leave town and we come back, we just feel like you instantly have to run to the beach and do that.
That's right.
And you have to remember that when you live here, when you're working hard and doing all the things people do to survive here, you have to go put those toes.
Yeah, because you ain't at the beach.
You ain't at the beach or in the river. You could do that too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. If you had a word of warning for somebody coming here, what would that be?
It's not as dirt cheap as you think it's going to be. Okay, and that's probably good that you don't come here thinking that, because it's affordable. It's definitely very affordable, but at the same time, to go into cultures and try to cheap is not very nice either.
That's right.
So I think I would prepare a little extra money and just be very polite. It's people give you so much love if you're just really nice with them.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Good advice. All right, let's come back to Arte Vallarta and come back to Arte Vallarta Museo and also to the restaurant called
Eclecticos.
Eclecticos. I don't have a pen, so I can't write all that stuff down, but I thank you for that.
Did good so far.
Yeah, all right. Let's talk about where we can find you. Let's start here with Arte Vallarta Museo.
Arte Vallarta Museo is in El Romance neighborhood. Okay, now it's a neighborhood you probably would never really actually find unless you were hiking around and looking around PV, but it's right next to the romantic zone. Lots of locals live up here and expats, so it's a nice blend of people. We're along the Rio Quale, so it's like a 10-minute walk from the edge of the romantic. Well, not the edge, just it's like a 5-minute walk from the edge of the romantic zone. But if you're in Emiliano Zapata, you're really just a footsteps away from coming down here, and off the highway, you're boom.
You're right there.
You're right there. The Art Vallarta is located at the end of Olas Altas. There's a little street called Palitas. You want to go to it by the beach, not up the mountain. And if you go down that cul-de-sac, you're going to see this gigantic mural walls, and it's very hard to miss. It's just you.
You'll see it.
It looms
You'll
over you.
See it.
And then have the courage to go in, because you'll see a little door and you'll see like a art supply store. You'll have no idea what you're going to miss if you don't go up those staircases and see the galleries and see the studios. And everybody's very warm and welcoming. It's because if you come in there, that we already know you're cool.
Uh-huh. There you go. So be cool, all of you.
We all know you're cool.
All you. Make sure. And go there, because I'm going there. I haven't been there yet.
You're going to be cool.
Yeah, I'm going to be cool. I hate to be uncool. And then the restaurant.
Eclecticos is just 2 blocks away from Art Vallarta. It's between the Amapas and Olas Altas, so it's right by the beach. It's like 2 blocks up from 1.5 blocks up from the beach. So again, that's a nice alternative too, because a lot of the restaurants, a block or 2 away from, offer a whole other smorgasbord of opportunities. So.
Yeah. And if you know where Coco's is, she's right there, right?
Yeah.
All right, right there. Good. Well, that's fantastic. You got Facebook pages, and I'm sure you've got Instagram and website and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have all those in the show notes, so you'll have all that. I will. Let's see. What else will I do? I will have pictures. She'll send me some pictures of food. You send me some pictures of food.
Art.
Really? Art too?
Yeah, art too.
All right. Good. All right. Very good. I'll have a picture of your smiling face
map.
as well. Send me a picture of your smiling face too, so I've got that. And they'll be all in the show notes at www.puertovallartravelshow.com, and I'll also have a Google map that'll take you to the front door of all those places, so you can't miss them. You just got to go ahead and be there, right? And do it.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I've had a blast.
Thank you, Nathalie. Now, wasn't that something? A museum, an art and ceramic gallery and workshop, and a Greek restaurant, all in one stop. Wow. I have links and I have pictures to the museum over in El Romance. Make sure that you find them on Facebook when you get a chance, and like them and follow them so that you can keep advised of their monthly get-togethers. What a great opportunity for you to know some of the movers and shakers in town. Stop in, make sure that you support the museum. Also check out Art Vallarta over on Pilitas. It's a cool building. You've seen it. If you've been over at Jorge's Hideaway in Shrimp Shack, it's right across the street from Jorge's. And it's got that freedom mural on it. Anyway, check out the picture of it in the show notes. If you've been on Pilitas, you will recognize the building. And be cool, right? Stick your head inside the door and see what's happening in the creative world in Puerto Vallarta. And Nathalie's restaurant, Eclecticos, you need to try the food there. It's so good. I have maps and I have links to all of these places. You can find them in the show notes. Also, the place that Nathalie was talking about for breakfast, it's called La Milpa Fonda Bistro. I found it, and it's not in Colonia Guabanole, which I had thought. It is in La Floresta. I checked out the menu, and I can't wait to go there, and you got to go there too. Anyway, I have a map and a link to that little gem over in the show notes with their Facebook page and, their website too. All right. Well, that should do it for today. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with travel tips, great restaurant excursion ideas, and more. But until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, well, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you need to go to vallartainfo.com. That's JR's website. Reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value for value proposition. His experience and on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks, JR, for being our guide. It costs no more than if you're going to use someone else, so do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And don't forget, he's got his maps, his DIY tours, his revitalized happy hour board, and more. I have links to all of those in the show notes. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take time and subscribe and follow and share with a lover of Puerto Vallarta, or give me a good review, wherever or however you happen to be listening. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have links to the places we talk about, interesting pictures, and more, all right there in my blog posts and the show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already. All right? All right. Thank you, Marty Jewell. Thanks for your great report on Guadalajara and Tequila Town. And thank you, Nathalie Herling of Arte Vallarta Museo, Art Vallarta, the Artist Studio, and Eclecticos, the lovely Greek bistro right smack dab in Zona Romantica in Puerto Vallarta. I have links and pictures and maps, all of that in the show notes over at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for all of you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Solo camino, perro por la playa, me encuentro junto al río, cuando todo está en calma, pronto cae la noche, me brilla cumbias Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto Vallarta.